Let's see how we can make this wonderful and elegant poinsettia brooch. First, I'm taking some white pearl on Premo and I ran it through the pasta machine until I got the mica sheen. And I am using Donna Cato's largest texture sponge. Of course, the clay was run through the thickest setting. And then I am going to shave so I can create a pretty mica shift that will look kind of like snow. At least that's the idea. Once I do that, and this is a tip to get your blade to run better when you're shaving, I personally rub it with some Armor All, and that seems to make it glide more effortlessly and without getting all kinds of clay stuck on as I pass with the blade. So once you shaved everything that you needed to shave, you need to nicely burnish so that your surface will be very, very nice and smooth. But that's not really a big problem because you can sand it to perfection. Then I'm going to get an oval cutter. This is the largest in the set. And I'm going to use one of those things that you use to remove onion smell from your fingers when you cut onions as a baking base. They can be found on Amazon. I'm going to post a link in the video description. If you don't have one of these, you can use anything that provides a very mild curve. You don't want your base to be perfectly flat because that will make the pin of the brooch show when you're wearing it. So nicely smooth out the edges of your oval with your fingers and then simply bake it. I am also, and this is totally optional, I'm going to make a few holes to put later some rhinestones. Why I'm not putting them right now is because I intend to sand and buff this base, so if the rhinestones would be there, they would get away. This is done with half on a diagonal cadmium red, then pomegranate red, and just a little bit of alizarin crimson. That's like 1/3 of that cutter I'm using. All the clay is on the thickest setting, and I'm using a 1.5 inch square cutter, and I also added 2 parts of translucent. That makes the clay be not so easily staining. And all you do is to do a Skinner blend, and I'm showing you how I'm doing my Skinner blend the easiest way. After I make sure that all the pieces are well stuck together on the thickest setting, I am going to first fan fold it and then thin it out a bit with my roller, and then go again in the pasta machine on a decreasing thickness. And then once I get a little bit of a gradient, one neat trick to obtain a Skinner blend much faster is to actually roll your sheet, because that will give many folds that are superimposed, so that will make the clay blend much faster. So you can see that I got on a thin setting, and now I am rolling it. And that's also a cool trick to get all those ragged edges in, because no matter how much you condition the clay, you will get some ragged edges, but if you do this, you will get rid of most of them. So as you can see, I have rolled it, and now I'm thinning it out with the roller a little bit, and then I'll go with it again through the pasta machine. And if you haven't watched my Skinner blend tutorial, I will be linking it in the video description and in the cards. As you can see now, my Skinner blend is getting more and more refined, and I'm going on a thinner setting. If you're a beginner, avoid going on a thinner setting because it requires a little bit of experience in manipulating the clay. Anyway, once it's done and it's to the widest setting that it gets on the pasta machine, I run it through the thickest setting. As you can see, I am cutting it in two and stacking it, and then I will be going on thinner and thinner and thinner settings until I get a long thin strip. I went here at about 6 on my pasta machine. Then start rolling it in, starting with the lightest end. And here is a little bit of a trick. As you can see, I am rolling it in until I reach the part where the alizarin crimson starts kicking in. Go a couple times around, but then place the darker end on only half of your roll. And then simply reduce your roll. Make sure you didn't trap any kind of air pockets inside, and you do that by pressing on the middle towards the ends. And then, as I said, simply reduce the roll. What we need to do from this will be 3 different sizes of this roll. One size that would be larger, one that would be medium, and one that would be smaller. So I'm kind of trying to eyeball, and that's I'm going to keep for my larger one. Then I continue reducing the other half, and I'm cutting that one too, and then I'm going to leave the medium and reduce a little bit more. And then you cut your 3 rolls in even pieces. That's the thing, you need to have even pieces because they'll go some on the left side and some on the right side of the cane. And after cutting them, to be sure that you don't mess up, the easiest way is to cut in half, then cut in 4. And then I'm going to pinch the lightest end of all those cuts. And yes, it's better to do that after you cut than before you cut, because it looks a little bit different and you're sure that you're doing the right thing. After that, I'm going to group them in 2 groups, and they will be stuck together only at the base that is darker. I'm not putting together the tops that were pinched. And you go from the largest to the smallest and create both your stacks at the same time so you can make sure that they are equal in size. And then I'm going to change the angle of the camera so you can see how you're supposed to deform these stacks in order to create the poinsettia petal, which is not a petal, it's a leaf, because that's the poinsettia just changes the color of the leaves, and what we see as a flower petal is actually just a different colored leaf of the poinsettia. I'm doing this, of course you can do it just like a regular leaf cane. I'm going to post that in the video description as well, but this way it creates more realism. I'm first checking if they match well, and then see, I am starting to bend the tips towards from the largest end to the smallest end, and only after that I will put my 2 stacks together. It's not a good idea to do this after you put the stacks together because you will not get a very good effect. So do this only before you put the stacks together. Then try to match the 2 stacks, and now you can go ahead and start reducing. I will show you 2 ways of reducing it. One is to pinch the tip and then round up the larger end. But you can also start reducing by pinching the end again. And in a little bit I will show you how you can do with both ends pinched, because again you need to get 3 different sizes of petals. The idea is that don't forget to pull on the edges. Now I have my largest petal, and of course you have to look how big you want it to be to fit on the base of your brooch. And once you get the largest petal, so you cut your cane in half, and then you continue reducing one of the halves. Then you cut that one in half again, and you continue reducing one half. Now watch this. See how I'm pinching on both ends, and I'm pushing inside at the same time. That is the best way to reduce a cane that looks oblong like that, like an oval with pointy ends. So once I get all of these, in the meantime the base for my brooch has baked, and I sanded and buffed it. Before I move on to do the green leaf, I am going to place a backing on my brooch base, and for that obviously you need to remove it from the baking base. And then I'm not going to do a mica shift on the back, especially because I want to hide where the pin is embedded in the brooch. So I simply get some bacon bond on the back of the base, and there I have again some white pearl. This time it's on the 3rd thickest setting. Don't make it too thick, because you don't want your brooch to be too heavy. After which I am simply trimming off the excess clay. I do first this with my roller because I want to have a clear idea of where my clay ends, and not only that, but I want the ends to be slightly flattened out so that it would be a nice transition between the very ends and the middle of the brooch. Then I'm using my Xacto knife to trim the excess, and once again check again the ends, the edges to be slightly flattened, because once you do this, and once I apply the texture, it's going to exceed a little bit the edges, so you'll have to trim off again if you want a nicely finished product. Then I'm pushing the pin in a little bit to get the shape, the contour that I can cut out with my Xacto knife. Try to cut it out in one go, because you will use that to get the pin in place and also to mask it. And place some bacon bond, then place the pin, and then cover the pin with the piece that you have just cut out. Make sure that when you place the pin, it is on the open. And also you'll have to make sure that you leave enough room, number one, for the pin to move, because it's got a little section that a little end of wire that's going to hit the clay if you don't cut it off. And then also you'll have to cut off a little bit where you have that little thingamajig that turns to fix the pin in place securely. So simply use your ball stylus or whatever other shaping tool you have. See, I'm cutting off the little notch it needs for that wire end, and then I'm going to cut also the notch for the securing thing. I just cut it after I did all this because I had forgotten. Anyway, trim again the ends and make sure that they are a little bit flattened. And then in order to completely mask where your pin is secured in place, take again the texture sponge and simply press it on that area. And you will obtain pretty much a flawless, uninterrupted surface. I am also using a little bit of alcohol to make sure that my edges are perfectly nice and smooth and blending with the front, as well as in that area where I have secured the pin. And then, as I said, I'm taking the texture sponge and texturing. After this, it goes back in the oven, and as it bakes, I am going to do the little cane for the green leaf of the poinsettia. Now, while that is baking, let's do the same thing for the green leaf that we did for the red leaf. Only that here I'm going to have 1/2 of green, again cut on a diagonal, and then 1.5 parts of the jungle, and just one little strip of black. So I am placing it again the same as I placed the red, only in this case I'm not going to add any kind of translucent. And see, it's just a tiny strip of black. And I'm creating the Skinner blend the exact same way as I did for the red. And rolling it the same. That is, start with the lightest end of your Skinner blend strip. And once again, this is a much slighter difference in color, but once again, you place the darker end of the Skinner blend on only half of the roll. And then you proceed exactly as for the red leaf, with reducing and then obtaining the larger leaf. The thing is that on this one, and this is why I didn't add any translucent, I don't need more, because on this one you only need the larger so-called petal leaf. But again, I'm going obviously to do the 3 sizes of the cells between the veins of the leaf, and create the leaf exactly as for the red one. And when reducing, as I said, you only need the larger size of the leaf. So you can, I'm showing you again how to reduce with both pointy ends. Make sure it's the same size as your larger red leaf. Now it's time to place them on the base. I'm going to just take one of the ends that I cut off the green leaf and place a little bit of bacon bond to have as a support for attaching my leaves, petals, however you want to call them. I call them leaves because they are not really petals, even the red ones. So cut about half a millimeter, sorry, half a millimeter thick slices. Now remember, the poinsettia is not symmetrical in any way, so try to create as much asymmetry. I just showed you how to cut. You put any kind of cane that's like this, you put it on the side. So try to create as much asymmetry as you can. Slightly flatten your leaves with the bowl stylus, and then simply attach them to that little piece of clay that you have placed there. As you can see, I'm not attaching them in any kind of symmetry, just as asymmetrical as possible. And remember, you need fairly pointy ends of the petals. Then once you attach the green, not petals, leaves, once you attach the green leaves, it's time to attach the red one. So you start, of course, with the larger cane, and you attach your leaves. That one was a little bit too short. So I'm going only to put 3 larger leaves, and then put, not 3, 4, and then put more. But again, don't go in a symmetrical way, by no means. Try to create as much asymmetry as you can. And you do the same with all these leaves. You just simply flatten them a little bit against the palm of your hand, because that makes the best veining, and then attach them to that center. And you can see I made them quite asymmetrical. I'm going to place quite a few smaller leaves on top. And why you must not cut the leaves too thick is because you'll get too much of a poinsettia there if you cut them too thick. And no worries, if you bake it for 1 hour, those leaves are going to be very, very sturdy. Then once you have attached all the leaves, you need to make a little bit of a hole in there using your bowl stylus, and then place some tiny, tiny, tiny balls of yellow, and then create a little hole in each of those yellow balls. I'm using here the edge and pearl to do that. And to ruffle up the leaves a little bit, insert the edge and pearl or whatever is your sculpting tool right under the leaf and push in, because that's going to lift the leaf a little bit up. Then I am going to attach my rhinestones, and for that I'm putting a little bit of bacon bond in those little holes, and then I will be placing the rhinestones. I am using one of those little glue pens for the rhinestones, and then I'll be using some tweezers to make sure that they are well set in place. At this point, make sure that that little hole is filled about 3/4 with bacon bond. Otherwise, you won't have enough to hold the rhinestone in there in place where it's supposed to be. So I used 2 different sizes of rhinestones. They are all the AB, the Aurora Borealis, that cause a lot of iridescence. And then before baking it, I'm putting a little bit more bacon bond on the, not bacon bond, Xacto PolyClay on the very edges to make sure that my rhinestones don't come off. And as it bakes, the Xacto PolyClay becomes very, very clear, so it won't be seen. Now one last touch, and I am going to use the perfect pearls for the middle, and then also for the leaves And before I do that, I'm going to use a little bit of Franco Garcia artisan powders. You can use chalk pastels or whatever. This is a burgundy color. It's called Madame Merlot, but you can use any burgundy. And I'm going to very, very slightly dust the base of the red leaves to create a little bit more realism. And then I will be using Perfect Pearls copper for the middle where the yellow is, and then the Festive green for the green leaves. Don't place the copper too far out, just on those little yellow dots, and a pinch on the base of the top red leaves. And now I'm going to bake it for a full hour at 275 degrees. Last touch, I am using shellac once it's baked to make it a little bit shiny. You can use whatever you wish. I just, that I prefer the shellac because it doesn't really get air bubbles, and I make mine very thin. If you haven't watched my tutorial on how to do your own shellac, I'm going to link that in the video description below. And once the shellac is completely done, there we go. We have a beautiful, elegant poinsettia brooch for the winter holiday.